Abandoned by family, now they're begging for help. Hello, Reddit. I'm a 32-year-old woman who never thought I'd be sharing my life story online, but here I am. My world was completely turned upside down in a way I never expected. My parents kicked me out of our home, and why? Because I managed to pay for my MBA without their invaluable assistance, and my 36-year-old sister, the golden child, couldn't stand it. It's a long story, but I need to tell it, and maybe you all can offer some advice or just a virtual shoulder to cry on. Let me explain my family's dynamic. I've always been the underdog, the last in line, the one who never quite fit in. It was clear from the start that my sister was the favorite. Growing up in a Chicago suburb, my parents would throw a parade if she got an A. If I got an A, it was more like, "Oh, cool, what's for dinner?" You get the picture. Sarah, my sister, was always the center of attention. She seemed to excel at everything without really trying. She was more attractive and outgoing. School plays? Lead role? Captain of sports teams? Of course. Grades? Perfect scores. I was the awkward, bookish kid who preferred to be in my room, coding rather than in the spotlight. My parents adored Sarah, treating her like a prodigy. When she enrolled in a prestigious business school, they covered everything: tuition, designer clothes, a fancy apartment, even her spring break trips to Cancun. They constantly bragged about their successful daughter to anyone who would listen. Meanwhile, I kept my head down, figuring I'd have to handle things on my own. Despite taking out loans and working part-time jobs in college, I still graduated, with honors in computer science. Was there a celebration for me? No. My mother just said, "Dear, that's nice. Have you seen the pictures from Sarah's graduation? Wasn't she beautiful?" My shot at an MBA fast forward to today. I've spent the last few years as a project manager for a digital company. It pays the bills and it's a good job, but I want more. Someday I hope to launch my own business, climb the corporate ladder, or even reach top management. So I decided to apply to a respected university's MBA program. The catch? The tuition is incredibly high. 6 figures, to be exact. I hoped my parents might offer some support. After all, they funded Sarah's entire education, right? One evening, after a family dinner, I sat them down. To my surprise, the conversation quickly turned to Sarah's latest achievement at the family restaurant. I outlined my plan, gave them an overview of the school, explained how it would advance my career, and then carefully brought up the tuition. Their expressions, you'd think I'd asked them to sell their kidneys. They flat out told me they couldn't pay my tuition, which I understood. MBAs are expensive. But what really infuriated me was their refusal to even co-sign a loan. I just wanted their help so I wouldn't be buried in debt forever, not for them to pay for everything. Their logic? We've already covered Sarah's tuition. Now it's time to think about our future. The worst part was, they were also planning a major expansion of the family restaurant, seemingly investing all their savings into it. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "So you can afford Sarah's entire education, but you can't even co-sign. A loan for me?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. "Well, honey, Sarah's education was an investment in the family business," my mother boldly stated. "Your MBA, that's just for you, isn't it?" Only for me? As if I wasn't their child, as if my success didn't matter to them. I was speechless. My parents seemed to be putting unnecessary roadblocks in my path, but I didn't want to miss this opportunity. For me, they had to be careful and frugal, but they had no problem spending a fortune on Sarah. A lifeline from Aunt Margaret, I had no choice but to ask my Aunt Margaret. Now, my dad's older sister, Aunt Margaret, is completely different from my parents. Frankly, she's far more successful than both of them, working as a neurosurgeon. She's always been kind to me and incredibly grounded. There was always this strange tension between her and my parents at family gatherings. They'd pretend to be polite, but I could tell they resented her success compared to their own. My dad, in particular, hated feeling overshadowed by her. When I was younger, I overheard arguments where my dad accused Aunt Margaret of being arrogant and belittling him. At first, I wasn't keen on involving her, but I was desperate. One day, I called her to see if she could help with the tuition. I explained the situation, my parents' refusal to help, and how much this MBA meant to me. Aunt Margaret didn't hesitate. "Of course I'll help," she said. "Why didn't you ask me sooner?" "It would be an honor for me to invest in your future because I've always believed you have a lot of promise." I felt so grateful, but I was also terrified my dad would find out. He'd go ballistic if he discovered I'd gone behind his back to his sister for money. To keep it a secret, I pleaded with Aunt Margaret. Understanding the complicated family dynamics, she agreed. Everything was fine for a while. My tuition was paid, and I was preparing to start my MBA. I thought I was safe. I felt both nervous and optimistic about the future. For once, I felt like I was winning. Sarah's betrayal. Then, Sarah decided to ruin everything. I'm still not sure how she found out I'd asked Aunt Margaret for help. Maybe she snooped through my emails when I wasn't looking, or perhaps she overheard a call. However she found out, as the golden child, she couldn't let it go. She had to make it a huge theatrical spectacle. One evening, after a long day at work, I was excited to share some news about my upcoming MBA orientation. But as soon as I walked in the door, I sensed a problem. The house was eerily silent and the air felt heavy with stress. My heart sank as I walked into the living room. All my belongings, my books, clothes, even my bedding, were packed in boxes. It felt like the house was erasing me. My parents were sitting on the couch, their faces a mix of disappointment and rage. Sarah stood off to the side, a smug, self-satisfied expression on her face. I felt like I'd walked into a twisted intervention. My father wasted no time. "Explain this," he demanded, tossing a pile of papers at me. I picked them up with trembling hands, not understanding a word. That's when I realized Sarah had completely lost her mind. She had fabricated these fake emails between Aunt Margaret and me, making it look like I was betraying the family. The emails implied I had given Aunt Margaret our family restaurant's trade secrets in exchange for her covering my tuition. Recipes, supplier details, even the restaurant's finances. I didn't even have access to most of that stuff. But Sarah did. My eyes couldn't believe what they were seeing. Sarah had gone through my laptop, found some emails I'd sent to Aunt Margaret, and then photoshopped or altered them somehow. She painted me as some kind of traitor, as if I'd betrayed our family. Was stunned. "This isn't real," I stammered. "These emails are fake. I would never do this." My parents, however, weren't listening. My mom was crying, and my dad was furious, red-faced. "We trusted you, and you stabbed us in the back." They believed. Sarah, no matter what I said, they always had. It felt as if I had vanished from the world, and that all the years I'd spent being a good daughter, working hard, and never getting into trouble were meaningless. I knew then and there that I would always be second best in their eyes. They would always doubt me. "You have to leave," my father said in a cold tone. "We won't have a traitor in this house." I pleaded with them to reconsider. I tried to explain the MBA and how Aunt Margaret was just helping me, just like they had helped. "Sarah, my parents didn't care." I didn't want to burden Aunt Margaret, especially since she had already promised to cover my tuition. They called me a traitor and refused to engage with me. Sarah just stood there the whole time, her arrogant expression never changing. Her eyes said more than words ever could. She had won. The sister she always viewed as a rival was finally gone. A new chapter begins. That was it. I left with only a few boxes of my belongings and the clothes on my back. As I loaded my car, I saw neighbors peering out their windows, probably curious about the drama. I felt utterly alone, betrayed, and humiliated. As soon as I was in my car, I called Aunt Margaret, crying so hard I couldn't speak. Without asking any questions, she told me to come to her apartment right away. I'm not sure how I would have made it through without her. I'm currently living at Aunt Margaret's place. She offered me a roof over my head and assured me she still wanted to help with my MBA. She's been an incredible support system. Still, I vividly remember that night. Sarah standing there with that arrogant look, knowing she had won. My parents glaring at me like I was a criminal. And all my belongings packed away when I walked into my home. I don't know what to do, Reddit. A part of me wants to defend myself and prove Sarah lied. If I looked closely enough, I could certainly find proof that the emails were forged. But I also want to cut all ties and never look back. Why should I fight for people so eager to believe the worst of me? How can I possibly understand this betrayal now that my own family has abandoned me? How can I move on? The MBA program starts in a few weeks and I should be thrilled. Instead, I'm dealing with this emotional trauma. I keep replaying everything, in my mind, wondering if I missed any clues. Was Sarah always this cunning? Were my parents always so ready to discard me? How can I ever trust anyone again after this? Aunt Margaret advises me to focus on the opportunities my MBA will bring for my future. It's hard to see past the hurt and anger right now, but she says, success is the best revenge. I'd appreciate any guidance. How do I rebuild my life when my own sister would go to such lengths to harm me? How do I handle this? And how do I interact with my MBA professors and classmates when I feel so broken inside? I feel like I'm drowning here. Give me a lifeline, Reddit if you can. Update 1. 3 years later. It's been a long time, Reddit, 3 years to be exact, since I last wrote about my family throwing me out. A lot has happened, and I wanted to let you know how things have progressed. Started by finishing my MBA program, which had a profound impact on me. I was in a lot of mental turmoil when I first started, but I was able to channel all that energy into my academics. I graduated at the top of my class. It wasn't easy. The girl who constantly felt inferior is no longer there. She's been replaced with a woman who is confident in her abilities and isn't afraid to express them. After graduating, I got a job at a prestigious consulting firm. I love my job, but it's tough. For the first time in my life, I'm in a setting where my skills and hard work are truly valued. No more living in the shadow of others. During all of this, Aunt Margaret has been a rock. She's become the loving family I never had, not just a place to stay. During our weekly dinners, we discuss everything from her most intriguing medical cases to my most recent professional endeavors. I've learned so much from her about standing up for myself and appreciating my own worth. 3 years of radio silence from Sarah and my parents. No emails, texts, or phone calls. It was painful at first. However, as time went on, I came to see that their absence was allowing me to grow in ways I couldn't have while living with them. I've built a life for myself that I'm proud of. Free from the need for their approval and constant comparisons. Sarah's desperation, however, life can be unpredictable. Last Saturday, just when I thought I had everything figured out, Sarah showed up at my door. I almost didn't recognize her. The air of superiority and the fancy attire were gone. She was wearing a basic sweater and jeans that had seen better days, and she had big circles under her eyes and her hair pulled up in a hurry. She looked defeated. "Hey," she said in a small voice. "Can we talk?" Curiosity overcame my desire to slam the door in her face. I opened it for her. Sarah sat uncomfortably on the couch, fidgeting. "I need your help," she blurted out at last. "The restaurant is having problems, serious problems. The family business," she said, "is close to going bankrupt. Our parents' much-anticipated big expansion had turned out to be a complete failure. They were drowning in debt because they had overextended themselves and taken out large loans. Dad's talking about filing for bankruptcy," her voice broke. "Mom is in disarray, and I'm at a loss for what to do. Despite my best efforts, I can't fix this." As I listened, I experienced a range of feelings. I had a sick sense of satisfaction. Wasn't this retribution for how they treated me? However, I also felt a twinge of Not quite pity, but a similar feeling. "Why are you telling me this?" I asked. "What do you expect me to do?" Sarah's eyes were filled with desperation as she gazed at me. "You're doing fantastically in your new work and with your MBA. I hoped you might be able to assist, offer some guidance or—" I understood what she was asking, but she didn't finish the phrase. She wanted money, the black sheep being rescued by the golden child. The irony was almost unbearable. "Let me get this straight," I said, maintaining a calm voice. "After everything that happened, after 3 years of silence, you show up asking for help?" Sarah had the grace to appear embarrassed. "I know I messed up," she said quietly. "I felt envious, all right? You were always so capable and intelligent. I lost it when I learned that Aunt Margaret was helping you. I apologize." After 3 years, all she could offer was an apology? It was dreadfully insufficient. "Sorry doesn't cut it, Sarah," I responded. "You have no idea what I've been through because of what you did." "I know," she responded, her eyes welling with tears. "But we're still related, aren't we? Family members support one another. Just give it some thought, please." Family. The word hit me hard. After everything that had transpired, were we still related? I told Sarah I needed some time to reflect. With a disappointed expression, she left her number and walked out. A crossroads, and now I'm here, trying to decide what to do. On the one hand, I've put a lot of effort into creating this new life for myself. The family drama, the constant comparisons, and the sense of inadequacy have all finally left me. Is it really my intention to get tangled in all of it again? However, a tiny part of me still cares. I feel something when I consider my parents' bankruptcy. Not quite pity, but also not disinterest. However, there is a part of me that sees this as a chance to show them what they lost when they rejected me. To definitively demonstrate that I am not the failure they have always believed me to be. However, is it worthwhile? After the way they treated me, do I owe them anything? And would things truly change, even if I did help? Or, regardless of what I do, would I always be the second-best daughter? Reddit. I'm conflicted. How would you respond if you were in my shoes? Should I defend myself and let my family work out their own problems, or should I assist them and run the risk of getting hurt again? I've been thinking about it for the past few days, but I'm still not convinced. A part of me wants to step up, offer them a helping hand, and pull them out of this mess. It might present an opportunity to re-establish our friendship on more equal terms. Another part of me, though, is screaming to go away. I'm still recovering from the profound damage they caused me. Would I truly want to expose myself to that? Suffering once more? Aunt Margaret and I have discussed it. As usual, she has been encouraging, telling me that she will support me no matter what. However, she cautioned me as well. Sometimes helping others means sacrificing yourself, she stated. Make sure you're not setting yourself on fire to keep them warm. I've been distracted recently, and my coworkers have noticed. Some have listened, sympathetically, but I haven't told them the specifics. One of them stated, "Sometimes the most professional thing you can do is to keep your personal life separate from your work." That statement has stayed with me ever since. The MBA courses on crisis management and corporate turnarounds are still on my mind. It's likely that I could assist them and provide a strategy for escaping this situation. Should I, though? Am I accountable? What about the apologies from Sarah? Is it sufficient? Is this just another ploy? Or can I believe that she truly feels bad? I'm also concerned about how it might affect my personal financial security. Even though I'm doing well now, I'm not exactly making a ton of money. Assisting them might jeopardize my future ambitions. One thing is certain, this time, whatever I decide, it will be on my terms. I've changed from being that insecure, terrified girl. No matter what occurs with my family, I will always be a strong, accomplished woman who recognizes her value. What do you think, Reddit? Should I put my own health first and let my family deal with the fallout from their choices, or should I offer them assistance? I'd greatly benefit from an independent viewpoint. On this update 2, an unexpected confrontation, it's me again, Reddit. Things have taken a crazy turn since my previous update, and I can't believe I'm back so quickly. Do you recall how I debated whether or not to assist my family with their restaurant problems? The cosmos, however, chose to give me still another surprise. My parents arrived at my workplace a week following Sarah's visit. You read correctly, my office. They just showed up in the lobby one afternoon after somehow figuring out where I work. Talk about a systemic shock. My assistant buzzed me while I was in the middle of a meeting to let me know that 2 people were requesting to see me. My heart almost stopped when she told me about them, feeling as though I was walking to my own death. I excused myself from the meeting and proceeded to the lobby. My parents were there, looking older and more worn out than I had recalled. Dad's shoulders were hunched in a way I had never seen before, and Mom's hair had turned fully gray. The weight of 3 years of stillness hung between us as we simply stared at one another for a minute. Dad finally stated, "We need to talk." In a rough yet oddly diminutive voice, I took them to a coffee shop nearby since I didn't want to have this discussion at work. An uneasy hush descended upon us as we sat down with our beverages. Determined not to make things easy for them, I waited for them to speak. Mom was the first to break. "We were wrong," she added in a shaky voice. "We ought never to have expelled you. We ought to have paid attention to you. We sincerely apologize. Over the last 3 years, I had dreamed of this moment countless times. But now that it was actually occurring, I felt nothing. There was only a hollow emptiness, no relief, no joy, not even rage." Dad added, his voice, "You should return home. We can overcome this difficult period as a family once more." To give myself some time, I took a drink of my coffee. "Why now?" I finally inquired. "Why after 3 years of silence?" After they looked at each other, I realized there was more to this tale. The depth of their desperation became evident as they started to explain. The restaurant was a total failure, not merely having financial difficulties. In addition to going overboard with the expansion, they had been taking shortcuts and breaching the law to stay afloat, including tax evasion, health code infractions, and even some dubious supplier transactions. They now faced possible criminal penalties in addition to bankruptcy. "We need your help," Dad said in a voice that was just audible above a whisper. "Your business knowledge, your connections, you could save us." Stunned, I sat there. My parents, who had dismissed me on false pretenses and had always viewed me as second best, now viewed me as their only hope. "Let me get this straight," I remarked, finding it difficult to maintain my composure. "You kicked me out, believed the worst of me without any proof, didn't contact me for 3 years, and now you want me to bail you out of your illegal activities?" Mom attempted to grasp my hand as she reached across the table. I retreated. With tears in her eyes, she continued, "We know we don't deserve your help. However, we remain family. We're at a loss on what to do, so please, family." That word was used once more. However, as I observed them, I came to the realization that they were no longer members of my family. Aunt Margaret, a true member of my family, had given me unwavering support. My family consisted of the friends I had established at work and in my MBA program who respected me for who I was. I inhaled deeply. "I'm sorry," I said, and I was surprised at how composed I felt. "But I'm unable to assist you. What you're asking, money isn't the only factor. You're asking me to sacrifice all I've worked so hard to achieve, including my job and principles. I'm not capable of doing it." Their shocked expressions were nearly funny. They obviously didn't think I would say no. Anger colored Dad's face. "After everything we've done for you," I interrupted him. "What have you done for me?" "You mean Denying me support for my education when you paid for Sarah's? Excluding me on false pretenses and favoring her throughout my life? Now Mom was crying aloud. Please, sweetie, we'll lose everything. I experienced a little pang of guilt. Then I thought back on the previous 3 years, including the hardships, the suffering, and the development and accomplishments I had made, on my own. I stood up and said, I'm sorry you're in this situation, but these are the results of your own actions. I am unable to save you. We'll be ruined, Dad yelled as I turned to go. Is it your preference? I stopped and turned to face them. I want you to accept responsibility for your actions, I stated. I want you to understand how much you lost when you threw me out. What I really want, though, is to be free of your drama and manipulation. I left my parents behind and left the coffee shop. After that, I felt as though a burden had been lifted. As I entered the street, I had finally chosen myself, set my boundaries, and confronted them. Justice and a new life. However, the tale doesn't stop there. I gave that confrontation a lot of thought. I came to the realization that merely leaving was insufficient. My parents' actions were unlawful, and if they persisted, others might suffer harm. I therefore had to make a tough choice. I reported what I learned about the restaurant's unlawful operations to the appropriate authorities, including the police, the IRS, and the health department. Although I knew it was the right decision, it wasn't an easy one. The consequences were severe and quick. Sarah called me screaming and sobbing, accusing me of ruining the family. I don't know what grounds my parents believed they had, but they alternated between pleading for assistance and threatening legal action in their voicemails. But I didn't back down. I informed the authorities of what I knew and made it apparent that I was not involved in any unlawful activity. Aunt Margaret was there for me during the difficult few weeks, reassuring me that I was acting morally. Although the inquiry is still underway, the eatery has reportedly been closed while a thorough audit is conducted. Sarah and my parents are facing severe legal repercussions. Although it's not a joyful conclusion, it's a fair one. In my case, I'm doing all right. Actually, better than all right. There's a feeling of closure with everything. The harmful family dynamics that hindered me for so long have now been broken. I have a successful career. I've even received an approach regarding a possible promotion. I feel like I've found a true professional home because of how supportive my coworkers have been during this process. I've never been closer to Aunt Margaret. After everything calms down, we're arranging a trip together, so we have something to look forward to after all this. Worry. I'm not going to act like it's been simple. There are times when I question whether I made the correct decision and feel bad. However, I know I made the correct decision when I think back on all the suffering they inflicted on me, including the years of manipulation and partiality. Here I am then. I felt confused and alone after being evicted from my house 3 years ago. I am now independent, prosperous in my work, surrounded by individuals who truly care about me, and at last free from my family's poisonous influence. Although some may have wished for a joyous family reunion, this is my tale, and I'm proud of the progress I've made. Remember this: if you're struggling with toxic family members or tough choices, you have the right to put your own health first. You are entitled to establish limits. Additionally, there are instances when the family you choose matters more than the one you were born into. I appreciate Reddit's support along this journey. You have no idea how much your guidance and assistance have meant. Cheers to fresh starts and making our own happiness. Thank you for watching. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do so and hit the notification bell to stay updated with more shocking real-life stories happening around you.